All right, what is up, you heathens and demons, you beautiful, blasphemous people? Welcome back to the Raging Atheist. Today's going to be an interesting conversation. Once again, Richard Madsen's here, Marty's here. We got an atheist, a Christian, and a pagan up in a room. Real quick, I just found out that the modern day debate thing is just got a little more interesting. I'm not quite sure James understands the situation that's brewing. I knew about the Black Hebrew Israelite, and the reason that James wanted me there was because the last time I was really able to add positive input with the Black Hebrew Israelite. Of course, I've covered the ISUPK. I understand the Black Hebrew Israelite maybe more than a lot. So I jumped right into it. I just found out about 15 minutes ago when I looked at my Twitter that the other guy is G-Man. so I'm fairly certain, and I just warned James, and James is like, "Oh, it'll be okay as long as it's like last time." I'm like, "All right," but I don't think James understands how G-Man gets. I'm fairly certain G-Man considers me a dragoon at this point, although I don't think I'm technically a dragoon yet. I haven't earned my stripes on that Discord server. But G-Man definitely considers me a dragoon. So this is going to be very interesting if I actually make it into modern day debate tomorrow, because I fully expect that G-Man is going to flip his shit. What's up, Ocean and Callan and Immutable and Era's the Change Man, Will and Kennedy? What's up? Thank you so much for your input on my ISUPK video. I am waiting for more input, and maybe my new ISUPK video might be out, might not. We'll see. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting conversation. We got an atheist, an unconventional Christian, and I've been kind of thinking. I haven't went back and rewatched our last conversation, Richard, but I've been kind of thinking about it, and I do have some questions that I have for you. But I'm going to let you and Marty kind of introduce yourselves, tell the audience about you. I'm sure a lot of them already know who both of you are, and then kind of guide the direction in the direction that you guys want it to go, and then I'll put my input and add into it. So yeah, we'll have us a nice little conversation. And what's up? What's up, guys? Welcome. All right, so I mean, if you're new to the channel, Ocean, you might not have been here. When I click off of my camera, I want, I don't like smoking weed on camera, but I ain't afraid to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to smoke some weed. Y'all get it going.
Well, I'd say ladies first.
Well, I mean, I don't believe in the Christian God. I don't know where else to really. I have been practicing and studying witchcraft for almost 20 years. Yeah, almost 20 years. And to me, in terms of Christianity, or like the Christian texts, the Bible and such, I just have a hard time with the Christian God, just in general, or even just kind of the concept of. And I really, really have a hard time with the Bible. I've tried to read it, and I really couldn't get past in the beginning, God. That's kind of where I got stuck. That was a huge stumbling block for me. I was like, okay, and then what? I've read enough. Once I did get past the in the beginning, God, I've read enough to not. It just doesn't speak to me in any sort of way. It's just and that's me. Everybody's different. It speaks to everybody. If it speaks to you, that's great. My main issue with like the hardcore Christians, like the Maphels and stuff, are the what they call I guess they call it preaching, but the preaching of hellfire and everybody's going to hell, and you're. I don't understand that. I don't understand how a loving God would even want to send everybody to a place of just eternal torture and damnation simply for the fact of not belief. I don't understand that at all.
So do you, as a pagan, kind of like, I don't say that I'm afraid of Christians, but I have this fear that Christians will somehow go back to and I talk about it all the time, go back to how they used to be and start really killing the rest of us. Like, do you have that like little itch deep down? Because I mean, pagans have probably a broader experience of being massacred by Christians than atheists do, honestly.
I don't have like a real world fear of Christians, like, um, like, oh crap, if someone knows I'm a
Yeah,
pagan.
like I'm definitely not afraid of them. I'm just like afraid of like maybe the movement turning sour again.
Yeah, that's because there is in the Bible, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. And as someone who's a witch, that does kind of, for and it's mostly the extremists. Like, let's say, the ones that say, well, I follow the Bible 100% and I live by the Bible, like the Matt Powells and the Matt Slicks and the Ken Hovens and the Steven Andersons. Those guys, if they really wanted to, if they rally a whole group of people to start whacking people back like they used to back in the day, that's the kind of stuff that kind of worries me. And I brought this up to other Christians before too, and I'm like, yeah, well, and I've had them say, well, I live by the Bible and I'm a Christian. Really? Well, I'm a witch, and your Bible tells you to kill me. I have a pistol and a pit bull mix. Bring it.
Mm. Yeah, wait, and I want to kind of clarify something that I said yesterday in regards to witches. Because I think I watched it back today, and I don't quite think I realized as I was saying it. As an atheist, I don't believe in magic, but I think I was dismissing witches that do practice magic or do believe in it as somehow like less than the witches that don't, or maybe like giving a perception that maybe I think that they have something wrong with them if they think that magic is real. I don't personally believe in magic, but to each their own. As long as they're not preaching a gospel of hate, I don't care. As long as, if you're not casting a spell on me, which, even if you did, like I don't.
You wouldn't know right away anyhow.
Yeah. So I don't believe in it, and I wouldn't care. But at the same time, I'm open to it. Like I'm trying to learn. Paganism is something that I am genuinely like kind of in the dark about. I'm learning more about it. I did the Native American spiritualist thing, but that's not paganism. It's not numerous God. Like we had Wonkin Tonka, the Great Spirit, who would be considered one God. We had the great grandfather, which is the same, and we had our circle of life, and we didn't really consider religion in the like even pagans or Christians do, just not in the same ways as other cultures did. So I'm really trying to learn about it, and I got really good friends with like Ocean, who's in the chat, and I've been watching his channel, and he's offered me books, and Callan, who's in the chat, who's been just so like just open to allowing me to just ask him questions and talk to him like normal human beings. So I'm really fascinated by it because I kind of spoke of Ocean's video yesterday. His new video about how pagans and atheists should be united. I truly believe in that. I think we fight the same cause and genuinely believe in the same things when it comes to social issues and humanism and protecting the earth. That's huge for me. Maybe not all atheists, but for me personally, if you're going to be on the side of protecting the earth, you're my friend. I don't really care what you believe in. Let's save this earth. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. So when I say I practice magic or I cast magic, I think a lot of people think of like Disney witch magic.
Hmm.
It's not like that.
And it could be something along the lines like how Native Americans see medicine. Like some Native Americans see medicine as actual power. Others it's like an energy, or it's just like this. It's like karma. You put out good, you receive good. You put out bad, you receive bad. That's kind of what medicine is. Some people have stronger medicine than others. So I don't like it. When I rewatched it back, it came off like I was dismissing pagans that might believe in something that I don't believe in, and that's not the case. I try not to do that with Christians. I try to dismiss them upon their actions and the things they say, not the things they believe.
Right. So, like a lot of excuse me, like the whole magic thing. When people think, when I tell them that, I do spell work, I do spellcraft, it's when people think magic, they're thinking of like Disney cartoons. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it is at all. I have been excuse me. I have been practicing magic, spell work for almost 20 years, and it's not like in Disney cartoons or movies. It's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. Because if they really sat down and like followed an actual pagan as they're about to do, or Wiccan actually, as they're about to do their spellcraft in their circles, it'd be pretty fucking boring. It would be a really fucking boring movie because there's no fucking, the sky doesn't darken and the clouds don't roll in and there's not fucking shit flying around.
You're not dancing naked around the fires at 2 o'clock? Oh, sure. I mean, that would be the fun part.
Right. That would be, a bunch of naked people walking around. That's the only part that's fun. But like it doesn't work like that. All that stuff you see in movies and shit, that's all special effects and CGI and camera work. That's not actual magic. That's not actual witchcraft. And I think when people think they hear the word magic, that's what they think, and that's not what it is.
Wouldn't it freak you out if it was like that?
I think it would make it would, for me personally, it would make it easier to believe in gods, because then I could believe in the supernatural. Like I have actual proof of the supernatural. Like, I knew a warlock back in the day. I've talked about the story a lot, and we got pretty high on some shit, and some shit happened. I can't decipher if it was the drugs or if it was real. My rational mind tells me it was the drugs. But my memory tells me it was real,
Right.
So,
but for the most part, like in general, like maybe back in the day it was, but like now, drug use for that is not necessary. It's not part of. You can, if you want to, if you think it helps, then great. But it's not required. You don't have to be tripping balls in order to.
And to clarify,
not a good idea anyhow.
And to clarify, not all pagans are witches. It's just
an
element of paganism.
Yes. It's Wiccan, and then there's paganism. Not all pagans practice.
Yeah. Well, and actually, because I've been researching the witch hunts, and up until before the Malleus Maleficarum, the debate started. So about 10 to 20 years before the Malleus Maleficarum, all witchcraft, all sorcery was considered pagan, and it was an excuse that they used in order to, either subjugate the pagans or just kill them off completely. Is that they're witches, they're sorcerers, dark magic, kill them all.
Yeah.
And it was shortly before the Malleus Maleficarum, but the Malleus Maleficarum pretty much ended the debate that no, witches were actually seduced by Satan, and this was more of a Christian problem. And of course, it was just women. Warlocks came a little later, but the Malleus Maleficarum specifically pointed out that women were very easily seduced by Satan himself, and hence we have witches.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Richard? You have a different take on Christianity. So what do you think about witchcraft? What do you think about paganism?
First, I'd like to say I love you all very much.
Oh, and welcome back, Richard.
To you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me a chance to talk.
Oh man, I love having you on. You're a pretty interesting and cool dude. I really enjoy you.
I look forward to the day that all of us can be very good friends. I know that day is going to happen, and I think it's going to be surprising for a lot of people. But anyway, at the beginning, Marty, you spoke of. Oh wait, you asked me to say something about myself. Okay. Until I was 42 years old, I was a heavy equipment operator who was an anti-theist. I then saw something I could not disprove as much as I might tried from a 6,000-year-old spiritual text. I now understand that all spiritual texts are actually one, despite people's perception that they are different, but that them coming from different cultures, of course, they see a different expression and they don't understand it. But even with that, I understand that all spiritual expressions of an ancient nature are valid and all comport with each other. I now try to show people the things I've seen, and really I should apologize for every experience that every negative Christian ever gave anyone.
Well, you don't have to do that, but I appreciate it.
I
really mean that.
That's not your fault, and that's what I guess I actually wanted to talk to you, because I know you and Messenger Reveals are, I guess might be relatively similar in like your, what you see as Christians, but like just I don't understand, like the two completely opposite end of the spectrum. Like we have like the Matt Powells who think anybody that's not him is a reprobate, and then we have you who just loves everybody. So, like,
Well, you know, there's truth and then there's perception, and never the twain shall meet, right? People like Matt Powell who say that they are following the Bible are liars. Okay,
Yeah, well,
they're following a doctrine of their church that describes the Bible, and they see it through those lenses, and they think they're following it. I would give you an example: "Suffer not a witch to live," as you brought up before, which I thought would make a great joke, but I couldn't find a way to squeeze it in without being offensive. So I'm glad you did.
I don't take it. I don't offend easily. I swear like a drunken sailor on shore leave, and it takes a whole lot to offend me. So.
Oh yeah, it's me too. It's really hard to hurt my feelers.
You know, but even back then, you know, because I've been studying this, I really want to do a couple videos to kind of counterbalance the negativity towards the shade that I'm throwing at Christianity when I'm studying this topic, because there were a lot of Christians back then and a lot of Christians now, like yourself, Richard, or that were really good human beings. We're fighting against a herd mentality, and pretty much fighting a battle that they weren't possibly going to win, because once the hysteria took over, it just spread like wildfire. You know,
well, in 2011, you probably would not have liked me.
You know, and I say that often. Like, people wouldn't have liked me. Shit, 20 years ago, I was a terrible human being. I would have robbed you. You know, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. We would have joked about it, you know, on our way to pick up whatever drugs we were going to buy. You know, I was a terrible human being. You know, I was a Christian. Right. They don't have anything to do with one another. You know, it's just when I say that, it's just to go to prove the point that Christianity isn't the source of morality. It's what's inside of you. I had shit inside of me. I had poison. I couldn't play sports anymore. You know, I was so angry at the entire world that I wanted everybody to feel as awful as I did, you know, and I took it out on everybody, and I paid the price, and I faced it like a man with my chin up, and it was terrifying, and I got through it. And that's what we do as human beings. But I just really wanted to be like, you know, not all Christians back then were terrible people, burning people at the stakes, burning atheists at the stakes. A lot of Christians were speaking up, and they were getting burned too for speaking up. So I just, you know, sometimes I don't just go that far and really paint the whole picture, because I get so focused on one thing. But it's important to point out, like, human beings are human beings, and it's not the religion that makes you bad, but it is the religion that can contribute to a herd mentality that can make you do things that you probably wouldn't have done otherwise.
Well, let's talk about that, because you briefly brought it up right there. There's a large difference between the practitioner and the practice.
Mm-hmm.
The practitioner
too, actually.
Absolutely. I mean, people are people. I'm sure you know people, Marty, who are trying to practice the same practice as you, but they definitely think of it in a different mindset than you do.
I'm sure I probably know, because in general, the practice of magic in itself is a neutral practice, because it's based in the powers and energies of nature. Nature itself is neither good or bad or black or white. It just is. So it is the outcome of whatever working you're trying to do is based on whatever your intention is in you as a person. If you're a shit person, then your spells are going to turn to shit. I'm a relatively decent person, so my workings have worked out for me in the past. So I can't get too much into them, because once.
Are my eyes red? I've been smoking all day, Reese. Sorry, Marty.
No, you're fine.
Reese, my eyes are all red. I don't know.
Oh,
man.
Don't worry, they're too squinty to see if they're red.
I can't. Yeah.
I've been cleaning and smoking. I did go to the park. I got a little bit of sun today too. That could be it. You know, I took my daughter and her best friend to the park, and I got a ton of pictures. I put one up on Twitter and about 70 up on Facebook. Yeah, it's been that kind of a day, cleaning and stuff, smoking. So that might be why they're red.
I wouldn't mind giving a plausible explanation for the Christian text saying, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." For one thing, a person would have to already understand what the word "live" means.
Well, and that people still misinterpret it. You know, like my aunt wouldn't let her son watch Harry Potter because of a verse in the Bible about sorcerers and that. And I'm like,
that's right.
It's a damn movie that's like tailored to your child to enjoy and have a good time and explore his imagination. And you're going to deny him that because of one little verse.
Oh, absolutely.
In that book, you know?
Absolutely.
I live in Georgia, so that's actually a thing down here. Like we don't watch Harry Potter because it teaches witchcraft. I'm like, I've been practicing witchcraft for 20 years and know it.
Good question.
So.
I could guess what are your religious views on cannabis? Maynard Saves asks.
Asking who?
Both of you.
Oh, I don't care. It's not a religious thing. If you have fun, I don't care.
If someone needs the stick pulled out of their butt and drugs helps them with that, I'm happy for them. But they need to get past the experience and realize they can do it without the drug.
See, I always argue that Genesis 1:29 specifically says that people can smoke weed, and it's like a gift from God. Excuse me, but
all the plants and herbs of the to use or something to that effect.
So I give all herbs bearing seed to man. To him, it should be.
It says eat.
Take it into your body and you ingest it.
Yeah.
But Cyrus put out a really good video that really got me thinking. I mean, I can't remember his arguments, but it pretty much changed my mind. I'm like, all right, yeah, Cyrus makes a lot of sense. I'm going to stop saying that. So, yeah, I think it's pretty much a Christian norm not to agree with weed. But I did a really good video on that Christian vlogger having a really interesting conversation about weed and how the church really seems to be kind of opening up to that. You know, like just opening up itself up to new things, not only weed, but he's done a lot of really good conversation. It's one of the things I like about him. He's not afraid to talk about hard things. He had the conversation about homosexuality and really trying to open up the church. And he's a Seventh-day Adventist. So I really need to get to know more about his religion because I hear they're crazy as shit, but he just doesn't appear crazy to me. So maybe he's more of a moderate. I don't know. I just need to find out. But
do you mind if Ocean comes in?
No, like he said he didn't really want to step on your toes. So, but no, I love talking to Ocean, and he could definitely give a aspect of paganism that we don't have here. So yeah, Ocean, if you'd like to come in, I would love for you to come in.
So while we're waiting on Ocean, if I could identify the word live, which I'm sure everyone's listening right now thinks they know what the word live means and also what the word death means. But there's actually two definitions in the Christian text of what death means. That's referred to as the first death and the second death. Now, the second death is, of course, the death of the flesh. But the first death is the death of an alignment system or an idea system, the way that you look at your life. So when it refers to the first death, it's actually talking about changing your mind, which, of course, has to come before you die. So, such as the book of Genesis, talking about Cain and Abel. The name Cain directly translates in the Hebrew to mean transition. The name Abel means worldliness. So, what you actually have in the first death that's described in the Bible is you have transition killing worldliness. That's what the story is actually about. So literally the first death in the Bible is describing the first death.
Yeah, and that's my argument. Like when I bring up the whole Satan lying in the Garden of Eden thing about and God saying that they'll die, that's the answer to the argument. It took Jill a while, but I think he finally figured that out. Is that it's the spiritual
death.
It's spiritual death, not real death.
I think even calling it spiritual death is a little bit too vague.
Yeah.
People say that, but then within the same text that they ascribe to, it also says that a spirit can't die.
Which I don't understand what makes me, for not being a Christian, and these like super extremist eyes, makes me spiritually dead. I'm like, well, how do you know? And it's not.
That's a doctrinal view. That's not in the text.
It was a godless engineer. I saw a video just put out where he stopped because he lives in Alabama and the whole abortion thing's going on. He stopped at a protest and what did he say? Like, it was just phenomenal. It was phenomenal. He said something that was directly along your point, Richard, and I just can't remember. I lost my train of thought.
Welcome, Ocean.
Damn it, I can't. I totally lost my train of thought, but it was awesome. Like if you guys didn't see that, go check it out because I thought it was
Godless
pretty cool.
engineer. When he
Yeah,
went-
Godless Engineer just stopped on the
that.
side of the road and just goes
saw
right up
that.
to the protest and starts talking smack. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I would do if I was down there right now, man. That's
Yeah,
exactly
Ocean. I live in Georgia. I live in Stockbridge. I live maybe like 35, 40 minutes from you.
Holy crap!
You live
No,
you live in Stone Mountain, right? Or near Stone
No,
Mountain?
no. I live in Atlanta.
Oh, either way, I'm still like 35.
Georgia has
Yeah.
a
You
Stone
ain't,
Mountain
you ain't
too.
far. Yeah, it's controversial, but yes, we do.
So North Carolina had a Stone Mountain. I used to go there all the time. It was awesome.
Not Stoner Mountain, not.
No, it was called Stone Mountain. It had this huge rock face, and you could actually look up there and see the goats climbing the rock face. Like it was phenomenal how them goats did that shit, man.
We have Stone Mountain over here. Is just like this giant rock.
Yeah,
And
rough.
it makes geologically it's kind of weird, but it's just like this big stone in the middle of nowhere. It's neat though. But anyway, yeah. It's also got some controversial carvings on it and all that shit.
I've been to Atlanta. I don't see how you survived your highways and interstates because, I mean, I was going like
We don't.
suffer not a traffic jam to live.
Yeah, I'm gonna real quick for anybody in the chat. Don't fucking move to Atlanta. We have too many fucking people.
Yeah, dude, like I don't like driving through there, man.
Stop coming here.
Don't fucking
There's
move here.
too many cars and abortion's illegal. It's bad here.
We were there for a while, Atlanta, Georgia. It was like the mecca of the South. It was like everybody come to Atlanta.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it.
it's still that.
It's still
But
no
stop.
more people. That's because you get like a 6-bedroom house for like $700-800 a mortgage a month. That's why. It's cheap as fuck.
I always did
love
like
it.
Georgia though. Like I loved Savannah, just the history. And
I'm
all
ITP though, so the property prices are higher over here. Right. But whatever.
So Ocean, you're a different kind of pagan. So I'm interested because I've actually wanted to have this conversation with you for a while. You know, we've been kind of talking about doing it since I first started talking to you. So I'm interested because I've heard you talk about Thor and your belief. I never really hear you get into it too much.
I'm like a slightly different.
Yourself.
I'm a slightly different kind of pagan than Marty is. I'm I don't know. You're eclectic, right, Marty? Are you?
Well,
or what kind of Wiccan are you? There's like 30.
The Welsh Celtic pantheon is my pantheon.
Okay, are you coming at it from a Reconstructionist aspect, or are you coming at it from a different, or more of a experiential, or what's your?
More of the traditional Welsh Celtic of the craft. But not of like sacrificing animals and shit.
Or is it like? Why are you calling yourself Wiccan? Is it Gardnerian, or is it or is it?
Oh, no, it's not Gardnerian. It's I don't know off the top of my head. I just when I do my invocations, I just invoke the Welsh Celtic deities. I call my watchtowers. I just go. I still do what I was taught, what I was trained in my coven in New Jersey, and a little bit of what I started. I had a coven here,
Okay.
but I had to leave because time constraints, and they were up in Kennesaw, and I live in when I was living in McDonough, it was like an hour and some change, and when I live in Stockbridge, it's still like an hour and some change.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Kennesaw's far. So, but I couldn't keep up with them. I still see my high priest and priestess. I just couldn't stay in the coven.
So you're pretty much like me. You're just like isolated. I don't have any atheists around me. The people I talk to, like the atheists I know, are online. I have nobody in my life to really talk to that's an atheist, except for Liz Rice, who's in my chat, and I see her on Fridays.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't really know. I don't really know. I have my.
You're grounded in it, like your traditional background. that you learned from. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I had I have my teachings from my coven, my high priest in New Jersey, and that's what I use. So.
Okay. Yeah. As for me, it's more. What's I don't know if you've bumped into this, but I'm a Reconstructionist and a heathen. So
I've heard of heathen, but I don't know what the Reconstructionist is.
Reconstructionist is that we put authority in historical analysis, and that if what we're trying to do is reconstruct the dead faith, and there's also revivalism, which is essentially the same thing, except that you're embracing the esoteric elements to it and having a certain amount of like filling in the gaps of what history can tell you. Which I think that if you're gonna have a complete spirituality, there's got to be elements of both, of pulling from history and pulling from experience and ritual and all that jazz. I don't. People have different stresses or mixes of those two ideas, and from my experience, Wiccans tend to be more leaning toward the experiential of lived spirituality, whereas Reconstructionists tend to be more of the historical tradition bent, and that's I'd lean more towards the Reconstruction than I do towards the other end of it, which tends to be eclectic.
Real quick, and I'll let you go, Marty. And that's just really what kind of cemented you for me, Ocean, was I saw you on Cersei's channel, and you started bringing up the historical things that made Thor true. And I looked into a couple of things you said, and they all panned out. And that's when I reached out to you. I'm like, dude, I want to know more about
it's neat.
This, you know?
Yeah. It's looking at records of, like, there's different records of people's experiences with these deities, and those are good to reference when you're looking at engaging with that deity. I think that's an important aspect of it. And I'm not saying that people that are eclectic don't do this at all, or that Wiccans don't do this at all. Some close friends of mine are Wiccan and Reconstructionist. So there's, with paganism and polytheism, it takes all kinds. You have several different mixes of applications of these terms, and how they're defined. Even there's little variations in that, where some people take Reconstructionist to the extent of saying that they can't use modern equipment or technology because that's not what the actual worshippers of the god used. And there's a group in Pennsylvania that are very similar to the Amish in that respect, that they're essentially Amish pagans, and they'll go ride around on horses and wear only wool and stuff like that.
Wow.
I forget the name of them. It starts with a U and it's really long. It's Ulagwe or something like that. There's all kinds of like applications to how this stuff functions. So
yeah, I'm fascinated about learning about it. Because I agree. Like it seems to me from what I've seen, almost every pagan that I've talked to on Twitter, or I've actually met a couple pagans around here, but they kind of stay to themselves. They don't. It's taken a bit.
They don't want to fuck with you.
Yeah, it's taken a bit to really get in and be able to talk with them. And they're fascinating. Like I find their rationale for their beliefs, and the same for you it just seems more rational for me. Like you have really solid reasons why you believe what you believe. To where with Christianity, it's just like you were taught a thing and you've always believed it.
Some Christians are more solid than others.
And people like Richard, who's really thought about it and they have different ideas. I love that.
I think Richard is like so different from most Christians, though, and I think he's perfectly aware of it. But what I mean is that like there's a lot of Christians who are very philosophically grounded. There's a Christian I've bumped into in the debate scene often that goes by Ouchie Wawa, which is such a strange name. However, that person is so freaking good at philosophically grounding themselves and arguing their case. It's wonderful to have conversations with that person because they're more informed about what their position is and what it entails and what they need to double down on and what they don't. So, I enjoy this. There's another guy named Jimmy Stevens who's a Christian that's really good. There's another Christian named Danny who's similarly justified. But a lot of them run into a lot of the same problems, and you start asking them about things that I find to be irrational, like the Trinity or Euthyphro dilemma. They do run into some serious problems with those issues.
Oh, let's talk about them.
Well, I'm interested in Suffer a Witch to Live, kind of, actually, because I thought that the way that you spun that was a little odd to me.
Why?
Marty, did you get that feeling too?
No, actually, I kind of, because when when you say, and I've heard this before, Matt Delahunt, he said this, brought this up to Sides and Brugentate, or somebody brought this up to Sides and Brugentate, that when the snake told Adam and Eve that they would not die in the garden, and he was right, they didn't, and God said that they would. He goes, well, they did die. They died spiritually, which, I mean,
that's real close to what the story actually means.
I mean, I can kind of swing with that, but then again, I
mean, I wouldn't agree with it.
I don't quite know how
I might see a consistency in the interpretation, but I don't agree with it.
See,
what is it you don't agree with specifically,
I don't agree with a spiritual death, because like
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, like I think it's because I've had people tell me that because of my lack of Christianity, I am spiritually dead. I've had people tell me that. I'm like, well, you don't know what I believe and why. You know,
I get it all the time.
Why. So
I think that part of that as well. It's strange to me because I feel more spiritually alive than I ever did in Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a Christian ever. I looked into it, and I
the whole suffer a witch to live thing, is that in the Bible?
Yeah.
Yes.
It has been used as justification for execution numerous times.
That's what I thought. I wasn't sure if it was in the Bible or if it came out of the Malleus Maleficarum, but I was pretty sure it was in the Bible.
No, it's in the Bible. It's in Exodus, I believe.
Yeah, and there's also passages in the Bible that refers to sorcery but like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not sure where I found this out, so I could very well be wrong, but wasn't like 2,000 years ago those words used in a different context than what we use them now? Like a sorcerer, I don't know about that one. Con artist or something. That I heard that somewhere. I'm not sure if it's true.
There's a sorcery issue in the Havamal that is actually just meaning like abuse of women, like as a modifier on women generally. It's not meant to be a generalized term towards women, and that's a translation issue that's popped up with criticism of our text. But I think that the when you look at the language of it, it stands up pretty well, especially since following verses examine behavior from similar types of men. As far as like the translation of around suffer which to live, I can pull up Strong's Concordance and see what it says and do that right now.
Well, if you pull up,
go ahead, Richard. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Richard.
You can use any number of sources, including Strong's, of course, but what you're going to find is in words like death includes definitions like clap, and they can be figurative. In fact, we get much of our figurative expressions from that part of the world. Of course, you can't kill someone by clapping. I mean, I guess if they have a heart condition or something, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, my maybe they got bad PTSD and shell shock. But my point is that within the definition, it says it can be figurative. And you'll also find that for the word slaughter, there's more than 5 different definitions. Okay? So it's not all the same word with all the same meaning like English-speaking people think it is.
Well, no, and I've often given that argument, but my argument is always it's how it becomes interpreted and how it becomes used. Like, so I have been studying burning of witches, and trust me that a lot of the atheists or a lot of the witches that were burned were just atheists, the people that just didn't believe in a god.
Oh, sure. So okay, the base words of this mean don't let witches live.
Mm-hmm. That's what I always took it.
That's all.
Yeah, and that was used.
Says. Yeah, I have very good reason to dismiss both scholarship and theologians.
Well, yeah, and
I don't know, dude. I think that once
I know
once
you
you're,
don't know. I understand the majority of.
Once you're arguing with the experts on stuff like this, I'm like,
okay,
all right.
Who had the Bible first? Secular people or religious people?
Is Strong's Concordance? You're just considering that a secular source? Then is that what you're doing? Are you just considering the concordances of secular sources?
That's not what I said. I said who had the original text first, the religion itself.
Well,
that doesn't matter to me. What's
well, it would if I made this point.
Well, make the point then.
Okay, so obviously the religious people had it before it was studied by secular people in all cases. They already had their opinions on it. And yet the secular people must be looking at it with the same view, even though they don't believe it's true, saying that it should be interpreted that way. That is, both sides agree that God murders or has murdered people in the Old Testament. Both sides agree to that.
Well,
It's just not what it's talking about.
Well, I'm just here's my thing, Richard. Is
I'm really confused as to why.
yeah, I'm a little too because what I'm talking about is what happened in late 1400s, early 1500s, and it was before the Protestant Reformation, so it was the Catholic Church, and Catholic Church was all of Christendom at the time. So before the Malleus Maleficarum, Heinrich Kramer, the writer of the Malleus Maleficarum, was a Catholic priest. He was considered one of the most popular witch hunters in the world, and he used this phrase, "Suffer not a witch to live," and he actually put it in the Malleus Maleficarum. So he used this phrase in Germany to burn 4 witches alive personally with him there, and then he went on to write the book that would go on to get before the book was even published. The Pope would issue a papal bull, which would pretty much use this doctrine, "Suffer not a witch to live," to declare that witches were real and that you should not suffer them to live.
Right.
And with the Malleus Maleficarum, it would lead to over 60,000 people being burned at the stake. So it was utilized. So it doesn't really matter how the original people intended it. It matters how it was utilized.
What?
It does when you're trying to say
That's
that,
a logical fallacy, bro.
So there's a couple of reasons why what I know what Richard's going to counter that with works, and there's a couple of reasons why what Rage just said works. And I'll go into let me try and steelman both of your positions. One, I think that Richard's going to be saying basically it doesn't matter what later people took these verses to mean. What matters was the original intention of the deity when it was written down as the word of God, right? So if somebody misinterprets it later, that's the fault of the people interpreting it, not the fault of the deity or the words on the page. The problem with that is it goes into something called argument that it was developed by a few friends of mine because they consider the interpretation argument, which is essentially that if you have an omnipotent deity that desires to be understood, there should not be any miscommunication at all unless one of those things is false.
Yeah, and this is mainly why I cover this issue. It doesn't really matter how it was intended. What matters was that a lot of people died because of it.
It's the multiple interpretations of every passage, of every word of in the Bible is what kind of turns me off from it, because you can think it says one thing, but you get goofy fucking Steven Anderson types think it says something different, and it's like, well, who's correct?
Well, yeah, and how do you know? Like, these Christians were a lot closer to the beginning than modern Christians, so it's really easy for a modern Christian to sit here and say, well, that's not how it was intended, when these much earlier Christians utilized it that way.
Ooh, teacher.
At least with the differences among pagans, we can say, well, there's multiple gods. With the differences between Christians, there's a huge problem here. Huge problem.
Yeah.
It's one.
And I'm not trying to attack you, Richard. This is just this is a topic that I've been. I mean, all you got to do is watch my channel for a couple months. I've been researching the hell out of this.
I mean, one God, one.
There's an intrinsic flaw in the entire theory of everything that everyone just said. However,
all right, go for it.
Okay. If there are instructions in the Bible, that is, it is at least in part an instruction manual. Instruction manuals are for the intent of educating someone who can actually complete it. The only one who ever completes it is the hero of the story, or in Christianity, Christ. So the instructions are for the Christ. When everyone else fails, that's irrelevant.
So you're taking that God does not desire to be understood.
Yes, on purpose.
Okay, so you have a deity that is deliberately obfuscating, and you think that's a perfect God.
That makes it a little bit difficult for.
That means that your God is an incredibly disingenuous individual. I have no interest in interpreting. I have no interest in engaging with that deity.
Yeah,
I mean, exactly what that means.
I would completely agree with Ocean there, Richard. I mean, and I say that
I can see that view.
I see. I say that consistently. You know, even if this God is real, I couldn't follow him.
Here's a question. That the Christian God wants to have a relationship with us, and He loves us so much. If He loves us so much and wants to have a relationship with us, I think that His message should be easy for everybody to understand, and everybody should come to the same conclusion with it. But that's not what happens.
No,
let's take that to its logical conclusion. Let's take that to its logical conclusion. You have thousands of years of people sitting on this earth staring at their wristwatch.
Well, yeah, they're all. Are you talking about everybody that's been waiting for Jesus to come back?
We would just be sitting here waiting for our ancestry to return. It would be stupid.
But
there would be no point.
There are people that are. There are people that are.
I'm confused as to what point that was supposed to make.
Yeah, I'm a little lost.
Marty, do you know what he was driving out there? Because
you could always ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I was making sure I didn't miss something that was obvious. So
I think what he was trying to get at is, I mean, there are Christians. I don't know if you're one of these Christians, Richard, but do you think that Christ is going to physically come back sometime in your lifetime?
There was a flaw in that. I don't think that Christ is going to physically come back. That's Christian doctrine. That's not in the text.
Okay.
I think he's going to arrive.
Well, and I want to pursue this, but don't let me forget Ocean, because I really want to get into the concepts of Frith and that with you too. So don't let me forget that.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm still on the interpretation issue here, though. That why is a deity that is deliberately obfuscating not a dishonest agent?
Okay, so
because he has a plan, bro. Trust in the plan.
That's a bad answer.
Okay, it was a joke.
I know a homeless.
Athena just wanted to jump in real quick. What's up, Athena?
I know a homeless woman who complains about being homeless, and then I find out 3 years after knowing her, and I listen to all her complaints, that her mom lives locally and they're on good terms. That is, she's not homeless. She's a fake. She's a liar. She is not having an actual homeless experience because she has a backup system. If you and I both had a backup system that we were absolutely sure of, then I doubt we'd even been talking right now.
What do you mean by backup system?
Yeah, what do you mean by backup?
I'm not sure how that relates to what I just brought up of having.
Okay, who has more empathy? Who has more empathy? Dirt Farmer or Paris Hilton?
I think
I don't think we could know that actually.
Yeah,
Come on, I mean that as an expression.
No, I don't think.
I'm a true humanist. Like I couldn't.
Depends on the dirt farmer.
Yeah, it depends on the dirt farmer.
Yeah, I mean, just because Paris Hilton
we do have something to draw
rich
from Paris Hilton, I think, but we don't.
Yeah, I mean,
draw from
the only reason why that is because Paris Hilton is like a specific person. But even then, we're passing judgments on something that we don't know. I have no idea how much empathy Paris Hilton has.
I didn't quite mean it that literally, but I think you guys get the idea.
I don't know what question you're asking.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I just answer that as a humanist. Like I couldn't possibly understand what's in the motivations or the empathy level of any human being outside of myself.
I'm sorry, Marty, you got ran over there.
Yeah, no, I think maybe what you mean is like is someone who would be more empathetic, someone who's stinking filthy rich, or someone who's like, damn near dirt poor, working their ass off in the pool.
Right, so,
I still don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah, well, in that framing, so my political leanings, I would be like, I hate the rich, But yeah, I don't think that you don't have enough information to answer the question. You have these stereotypes, so you would be basing it upon stereotypes and not.
Well, let me get out of that then. Knock, you're in support of women's right to choose on abortion, yes?
Yes.
Are you a woman?
No.
Why do you care?
I don't think so. Huh?
Why do you care?
Well, I don't like. I've actually.
To do with what it has to do with dishonest
entity.
Yeah, we've gotten a long way from it, but I'll answer because I'm against abortion. Like say if me and my girlfriend got pregnant, and I would be like I would not like to have an abortion, but ultimately it would be her choice. I'm for a choice. I'm for a woman controlling her body. Right. So as a man, I don't feel like it's my
Place.
It's my place to step in and say, no, you must do this because
But you have said
this
you're
God or
pro-choice.
that God or because I say so or whatever.
Because I'm assuming you have some empathy for women who are in a difficult position.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not a woman, because of some of your life experiences, you can understand that. That is that hard times for anyone increases their ability to love and empathize with other human beings. That's why this is important.
Well, so here's the other side of that. I've known a lot of rich people in my life, just where I lived.
Wait, how does that address what was said, though?
I don't know.
I don't know why it doesn't.
We're pretty far off.
I'm trying to figure out how it does. So, all right, what I said was that if a perfect deity has no desire to be understood and is in fact deliberately obfuscating, how does that not make him dishonest?
Well, first, not understood for a time. I mean,
okay, so temporarily dishonest. It's a perfect deity, right? Do you think that no? If I lie for 1,000 years and then tell the truth at the end, am I dishonest?
I think there's absolutely a necessity that so that we can have an honest experience as people on this earth and learn empathy and love, sisterhood, brotherhood, that we don't know the full truth. That is being kept from us.
So, okay. So God is lying by omission
dishonest, but
consistently, and you don't think that's dishonest?
I don't think it's dishonest. I think it's something we need. I mean, you have a daughter who's 4, ask you where babies come from. You don't actually describe that.
Are you saying that humanity is a baby?
We're
baby.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that God, who has put forward this idea of we have to accept salvation in order to go to heaven, is lying to us in a way because we can't understand it, and so is blocking us from any truth.
I mean, you call it lying. I think it's just super simple.
Blocking us from truth.
Well, not revealing it. Yeah.
Blocking then.
That's not blocking. That's not the same thing, Ocean.
Why not?
Okay. Well, if you have the answers, Richard, and you don't give them,
I think that blocking from truth is dishonest. I think that lying is dishonest. I think that lying by omission is dishonest. The problem is that we're talking about a perfect deity. That is in some sense still acting dishonestly. If he's in some sense acting dishonestly, that fails the standard of perfection.
You're saying blocking, and you're saying dishonest. Okay, not giving us access to the truth. What I said was the truth is available, and you can have it. Now you might not seek it. That's up to you.
Oh, you just said that he was deliberately obfuscating. But that was what you agreed to.
Well, the way
earlier.
I understand that word to mean, and my definition of it may be bad. I'm sorry if my definition of it's not perfect. But if obfuscating means avoiding and not being completely exposing, and that's the way I take that word to mean, then yes. But if you mean blocking and lying, then I can't agree to that, of course.
Maybe, I'm just saying dishonest. I'm holding a standard of dishonesty, and if you are not telling the truth, if you are obfuscating the conversation, making it so you have no desire to be understood, while putting out a missive, a Bible, in order to tell people the truth, and then saying, hey, I'm going to put this out. None of you are going to understand it, though. That means he has no desire to be understood, but he's still putting out that statement.
Did you just say that there are religious texts on the earth that if they're telling the truth and God gave them to us, yet he's not telling us the truth? Is that what you just said?
If it is impossible for us to understand it, yes. Because we assume that the deity knows who he's trying to communicate with.
I never said
unless
it was
you're saying
for
he
us to
doesn't
understand it.
Well, you were saying earlier that he has no desire to be understood, and that's why we have this disagreement. So for some people, yes, it is impossible.
It's not proved and obvious. Which if we're talking about proof and obvious, that's the end of this earth. That's the book of Revelation. That's the prophecy. That's when it becomes obvious.
Okay. Here's the question: Why are you explaining this to me without directly quoting scripture the entire time?
Do you really want me to?
Well, it should be easy enough to explain it to people if you just read from the Bible, and you should have no interpolation whatsoever.
I totally agree with you.
Okay. At which point, if there's plenty of people that read the Bible and yet still don't understand it without interpolation, right?
Oh, now I'm gonna need you to identify the word interpolation. That maybe you're using it differently.
Some sort
than
of
I
extra
understand it.
explanation that is extra biblical.
So apology.
Yeah.
Okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
he's not an apologist though, Ocean.
If there are some people that have no understanding of what the text contains or what the text is explaining without apology.
Okay.
Like even
okay,
that
well,
God is perfect is hard to find in the Bible, really.
I guess they don't understand what prayer is. Then they just ask, God would tell them.
So then the Bible's incomplete.
What do you mean it's incomplete? It's not finished?
Now you have to pray in order to understand it.
Yeah, and
No, it says so in the Bible. Yeah.
that's where, as an atheist, and I'm not sure about you, Ocean. I'm sure that you pray, but as an atheist, for me, the prayer thing is a non-argument. Because I mean, I have a voice in my head, and I get ideas for stories, and everybody has that voice in their head, or everybody can convince themselves to. I can literally bring up my first girlfriend ever, and I'm gonna have, if I think of certain experiences, I'm gonna have certain bodily and emotional reactions to just what I bring up in my brain. So the whole prayer thing, like adding on to the story, that's my problem here is the story, and I say it all the time, like God should use his words. He should have understood if he's an all perfect God, omnipotent, can see into the future, can see where this world is going to be, that he should have made himself quite plain on these issues, and still to this day, I spoke.
My question is, why would we know that's the best thing for us?
Well,
Why would
I spoke of witches, but to this very day, we have Matt Powell's advocating for the death of homosexuals based on scripture that is deeply contested on what it actually means. So I mean, to this day, we don't have clarity, and it's causing social issues to this very day.
Right. And in addition to that, we have these verses that exist without clarification added on to them. So what are we supposed to do? Is Matt Powell supposed to pray about it and then figure out? I think that he has. I think that the conclusion that he's come to is one that Richard would say is wrong.
Test things as we know how to test them and see if they're true. That's what we're supposed to do.
So how do you do that with respect to whether or not homosexuals should be killed?
He doesn't think that at all, Ocean. He's not.
I know that, but Matt Powell does. So how do we settle that?
And a lot of Christians do. A lot of Christians, maybe they don't think that they should be killed, but they're definitely not like us. They should be looked at differently. They're wrong. They shouldn't be. It's okay if they're homosexuals, but they shouldn't, just as long as they don't kiss another guy. Don't do the act. So it's all these different things. People are interpreting these passages in very, very different ways. Dr. Josh can sit here and give you original text, and he'll say, God clearly calls them abominations, but there's also references that maybe they're not really talking about gay people. They're talking about certain situations, incest, this, that. These interpretations, though, lead to harm, and it did back in the 1400s and 1500s. It can now. It can again, and I think that's what we're trying to say is this interpretation is the problem. God, if he was what people said he was, then the
only problem with that is
it cleared up already.
I could be horrible at math. That doesn't disprove math.
But I mean, God can't be horrible at anything if he is
I didn't
the way
say God. No, it's not
but no one claims that math is an omnipotent entity that's trying to communicate with us.
I was literally just going to say that, Ocean. That was exactly the point I was going to make. The perfect God, who is the creator of all everything, with his perfect message and the perfect word. Now I get it, people.
And Richard, you've been ganged up on, and
I want to hear Marty finish your point.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Marty. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. And I get it that people, can screw up and take different interpretations and use it for what they think. Like I think that Matt Powell's biblical interpretation comes from what he was taught, like childhood wise, family wise, because and So that's why I think that's where he gets that from, because there are Christians like the Messenger reveals who also read the Bible who doesn't think that. I don't know about what his family life was, but he doesn't think that. You don't think that. So I think your interpretation from the Bible probably maybe comes from have something to do with the environment that you were raised in the maybe. But as the perfect deity, as the perfect creator of all things, his message or his revelation should be pretty straightforward, that everybody should get the same thing at the same time, and we should all just get it. And Christians don't, and non-believers don't, and that's what makes me think that maybe it's the information that doesn't make sense to certain people, rather than it always seems to be user error. If I don't get the Bible when I read it, it's user error. Not maybe just the Bible just doesn't make sense. It's user error. So that's a major problem with me. Maybe it just doesn't speak to me. That doesn't mean it's user error. It just doesn't speak.
If
Is
God's
it entirely
attempting to,
possible? Sorry, go ahead.
it would be one sentence. If God is attempting to communicate with you, and you don't get it, is it user error, or is it on part an error of the omnipotent being trying to communicate with somebody and not getting through? Because if the omnipotent being is trying to communicate and it's not getting through, surely the omnipotent, especially if it's omniscient as well, would know how to communicate with you.
And that's
How many emails would I have to use to force you to answer one?
just one.
Well, but that's the problem though. Is you're talking about infallible human beings, to where we're talking.
That's right.
We're literally talking about a God who's perfect and designed us, right?
So you want God to?
I want to respond to that real quick. Hold on.
You.
No, what you said was, as far as like email response, that's an argument that works against atheists, does not work against pagans, because we're engaging with deity.
Yeah, I have.
I'm not saying you're
So
not engaging with deity. I never said
what's
that.
happening? When you're saying that how many emails does it take in order to force you to respond?
We haven't even.
We're
spoken
not
to that.
ignoring anything. We're in fact engaging with everything else that's going on.
Tell me what you've learned.
We're not getting. What do you mean?
From your religious practice, tell me what you've learned.
Why?
Tell me what new information you have.
I'm not interested in necessarily converting you, so it doesn't matter to me
Whether or not
you feel
unjustified.
unjustified.
The question, that's fine, but I asked you.
Who wants to convert the other? Is it you or me?
I'm not trying to convert anyone. I'm just talking about what the truth as I understand it. That's all I'm doing.
Okay. For my personal, and someone's calling me out for deflection in the chat. Yes, absolutely, because this is not a part that actually matters. I'm not interested in defending on my religion on this aspect. If you want to know personally, there's definitely reasons why I keep with my religion, and I've learned a great deal, an immense amount. However, it's not. I'm not interested in playing the apologist game. Outside of self.
Oh,
so,
good.
With respect to what you're talking about on the email aspect, it's talking about a deity trying to reach out and communicate, which pagans are doing. Pagans are absolutely fine with that aspect. The problem is that you have a deity that's omnipotent, desires to be understood, and wants to have an interaction.
And doesn't,
unless like one of those things has to be false no, as far as pagans are concerned.
Okay, I can see that view, but you have to consider that probably a very, very high percentage of Christians that you've met have never actually prayed. They just think they have.
I bet you none of them actually read the Bible either. You'll be
That's another point.
Well, that's a big problem that I have, is the prayer thing. But like with this whole email thing, it doesn't really work against atheists either, because most of us were theists at one point. So my analogy would be I was receiving those emails and I was reading them, and I threw them in the spam folder. That would be my analogy as an atheist, because I was getting those emails and rejected them as false, as misinformation, as spam. I didn't want to read those emails anymore because it was a waste of my time. So as an atheist, the analogy really doesn't work, because I was actually, for the first, 21 years of my life, I was getting those emails, and all it did really was lead me to prison. To where when I
get junk mail, I always have.
When I rejected them, I've been I made my mistakes since, but I've been a progressively better human being. And you can just tell that from my channel, because 2 years ago, I was against all theism.
hold the phone, because Messenger makes a really good point. He says that Richard may not believe that God is omnipotent or omniscient. In which case, that fixes a lot of the problems.
Yeah, Richard does have different concepts of God.
So, what are your positions on that?
omniscience and omnipotence.
Yeah.
Well,
In relation to your deity.
ability does not mean that a person would exercise that ability. I don't believe that there's any proof of God being or not being either one of those things.
But do you think that so you just don't, you're agnostic on his omniscience.
My experience of God has been he knows a lot more than me and he cares about me.
Actually, that's
my
fair.
experience.
I'm willing to accept that. We can roll.
We did
with
kind
that.
of flesh this out in our last conversation, Ocean.
That's all I can
We didn't
say.
get to get into it too much because it was getting. I wanted to process it, but I
Oh, see,
did.
I wish that if Richard had caught that earlier, because what I was saying is that one of these things
Yeah.
is false. Richard could have easily responded, "Well, he's not. I don't know if he's omnipotent." Okay,
Yeah,
well then,
it would have clarified a lot.
then the argument can move.
Well, Ocean, I don't think I'm
takes
as
this
smart
whole
as
thing
you are.
off
I'm
the table.
sorry.
No.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm not. It's,
Richard, you're
it's
just
like a light
genuine, man.
criticism, but
It's a good
for next
thing
time in
about
this
you.
conversation, what I will say is that your position holds a lot more water if you drop the omnis.
Mhm.
It makes things a lot easier as far as to converse on, and the argument becomes a whole lot
Well,
more subtle
I
when you
think
start
if
saying,
I'm-
"No, I'm just a monotheist. I don't know about the omnis."
Well, and he
I
definitely he looks at God like a physical being. We had this conversation, and I haven't processed it all the way, but you think that it's like a. You corrected me last time, but it's an actual physical being that is going to actually physically come back here. I'm still processing it.
Well, that's what every spiritual text around the planet says about our ancestry, so that's what I believe.
All right. So I mean, he does have different concepts, Ocean, that I'm still
Wait,
fleshing out.
what is what every text says about around the planet?
About
Say
our
about our
ancestry, that they have physical self.
Yeah,
That our ancestors have physical self, or that the gods
Yes,
do?
all of our ancestry, all of our lineage have physical self. Yeah.
we danced around the subject on whether or not God is what we would consider to be an alien, and I don't think you quite consider him to be an alien, but it's close, right?
If we are.
Yeah, he definitely thinks that we are. We're.
I mean, they're only as alien as we are. There's nothing weird about
definitely
that.
not your normal Christian.
No, I have known for a long time that Richard is not your average Christian.
Yeah.
Like
Well-
that, it's Richard is like just a completely different breed, and I love
don't
him for
dismiss
it.
any
Yeah,
part.
I
Absolutely
think he's
love him
great,
for it.
Ocean. I mean, I enjoy these conversations so much.
Yeah. I've met a number of Christians that are like just incredibly unorthodox, Richard being among them, and honestly Christians that have just like this like unique spin on everything. I have so much appreciation for that, and I think that there should be more of those kind of Christians involved in these conversations, just because it stirs things up a little bit. It makes the conversation way more interesting. And
You
way
know,
more fun.
like when Matt Powell says we should pass laws through our government that has homosexuals stoned to death. He's missing part of the Bible on purpose to make that statement, because the Bible says the opposite. I mean, and it's not conflicting with itself. It's one work. It's not conflicting. I can justify that. I won't do it now because of time constraints. But there was no word homosexual between, what was it, like before 1830 something? Anyway, so it's a medical term, okay? It's a scientific or medical term. Before that, people used other words. Apparently, the ancient Hebrew used the word eunuch. So then when the apostles approach Christ and say, if a man is like a woman, is it good that he should marry? I think you understood that question, right? If a guy is a girl, actually, should he marry a woman? And then Christ answers, some are born of the womb. Some are made that way by others, and some yet choose to be. But for the kingdom of God's sake, if one can receive the good news, let him. Well, that's right there in the Bible, but Matt's ignoring it.
I definitely love that message right there, man.
It's a message of love and acceptance. I mean, is it quote unquote an abomination? Well, if the point is to put spirits on this earth in bodies and those people don't reproduce, then yeah, sure. It's cutting God off at the knees. That's not cool, but it's not keeping them out of heaven or something. They shouldn't be killed. That's ridiculous.
Something to settle the omnipotence
Go ahead.
question. Do you believe that God can fail?
Do I believe God can fail at what? Anything?
Yeah, just anything.
In general.
Gosh, I'm not trying to avoid that, but that's impossible for me to say. All I can say is he can search my mind and my heart and know me thoroughly if I allow it.
Okay, that's consistent with what you were saying earlier about not knowing whether or not he's omnipotent. Because
Yeah,
if you say yes, God can fail, then you're saying God is not omnipotent. If you're saying he cannot fail, then he is omnipotent. But you just said that you don't know. Right, and that works. Cool.
As far as I can tell, he can do anything that we need done.
Yeah,
But he's only concerned with doing
that's
things
a
we
serious
need done.
qualifier that adds on to that. Okay, I
Okay.
can see that. All right.
Okay.
I definitely deemed through the several conversations with Richard now that it's going to take a lot of conversations to really get to the meat of everything that he believes, because he's got all the and Dr. Josh was exactly right last night, because he gave you a lot of praise, Richard. I'm not sure if you saw it.
I have a lot of respect for that man.
He says you've thoroughly thought out your positions.
I
and
haven't.
He says
true.
you have.
It gives that appearance, but the
I
appearance
I think you're very
just not-
humble.
Oh, what, Richard? I think that you're the result of somebody who's like, you've examined a lot, and you've thought about it a lot, and you've thought about it, I would say, more than most people.
Yeah,
Well, I thank you, but you embarrass me, and it's not true.
I think you give too much credit to most people.
Put it this way: when I ask you your position on things, stuff that a lot of Christians would say, I don't know, you answer in a way that shows that you've considered the proposition.
I just
In
read the
more-
whole Bible
more ways.
real slowly in prayer, and everything was covered.
Right,
there.
and
I
that's
just
the result of that.
I just say that. I
A
just
lot
say
of Christians
whatever's
haven't
there.
done that.
Yeah,
That's why I say that you thought about it more than most. A lot of Christians haven't done exactly that.
No, I don't think there's another way to tackle it.
A lot of Christians are afraid of I don't know, because it's uncertain, and they take comfort in the certainty of the Bible, and it's okay to say I don't know, even if you're a Christian. Well, what happens? Oh, I don't know. You can say I don't know. Yeah.
Sorry to cut
Pagans
you
say
off,
I
Marty.
don't know all the time. What is it? I don't know. Ocean asked me a question. I didn't know what he meant, but like.
Real quick, sorry. to cut
People
you
have
off,
asked me.
Marty.
I've said I don't know numerous times in these conversations.
I gotta end this at 9:00 to do my daughter's sugar, so we got like 45 minutes at most. And I do want to get into Frith and everything before you go, before we end this, Ocean, because I'm really interested in these concepts, and I've seen it on Twitter and in your video. But Richard, the thing that I love about you, and I'm gonna say this just straight up, is you will sit here and take the fire, and you don't lose your cool.
You're my brothers and sisters. I love you guys.
You sit there, you take it, and you don't. You just don't. Like, I could not do it. So you get to the end of it, and you're still where you started. But what you've done is made everybody else understand a little bit more. And there's so much to understand with you that it's just going to take so long. But that's what I really appreciate. I feel like I understand you more every single time I talk to you, and that's what I look for in these things. Is just understanding, man. It's the most important thing that I think you can do is to understand people. You know, my little thing.
Thank you, Malik.
Yeah, I always love conversations with Richard. And if there's, I'll say that if I meet Richard in a debate setting, I'm gonna get flustered because I have no idea what his position is on a lot of things, and because it's not predictable at all. And at the same point, that same point of frustration is a point of like interest and curiosity and love. I am so into.
Could I comment on that?
how you go into stuff? Mm-hmm. So yeah,
Ocean, what you just said is very, very, very true. It's not predictable. Let's think about that for just a half a second. I'm a bulldozer operator. Didn't care about the Bible. Never been a religious dude till age 42. How can I have a brand new view? I mean, how long's that book been here, man? How many people have read that?
What I'll say is that your position is unique as far as my experience of discovering.
Well, I'm agreeing with you, but don't you see how weird that is?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it is, and I think a lot of it is that childhood indoctrination. I think the fact that you went so long without having that you were when you actually picked it up, instead of being told what to think, you were able to develop what you think, and I think that's a huge difference.
Yeah,
that
is
a
big
blank slate. I had a blank slate. That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was my dad's a hardcore, like almost Aaron Raw type atheist, but he never. His main thing was like, if you're gonna find a religion or a set of beliefs, again, I don't really like to call paganism or religion for whatever, but if you're gonna just don't be an asshole about it, and don't try and push it on himself or other people. Let other people do it. And I never have. And pagans in general just don't do that. We don't feel the need to proselytize or try and convert anybody. That's not our. We don't go out soul winning. That's not part of the thing. Like, it's. I mean, Ocean can back me up when it's not.
There's been discussions among people that I know. It's like maybe we should go out with like the Viking versions of Chick Tracts and like.
Yeah, right. Have you
heard
about our Lord and Savior Thor or the?
Oh, you should put that on your channel.
Start like knocking on doors with like holding a cat and saying, "Have you heard of our Lord and Savior Freya?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder how people would freak the fuck out, but it's second nature for you to open your door to Christmas carolers at Christmas or people trying to sell you the Christian God. That's okay, but if you were to actually do that, I wonder how many people would call the cops.
Ocean, we totally do that. you don't live that far from me. I'll come over. We'll go by your neighborhood and see what happens.
Please film that. Please film that.
There's some neighborhoods nearby.
I
don't know. I live at this. Anyway, go on.
You guys are right in the middle of white Christian. That's where you are.
Yeah, we're
really.
Actually, my neighborhood is mostly Hasidic Jews.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, you had to be different, didn't you, Ocean?
Yeah. Go ahead, Marty. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's not a thing with us. We don't, you believe whatever you believe, as long as you're not an asshole about what you believe and what you do, then we're fine. But once you start, preaching like the Matt Powells and all them, that's when we stand up. And that's when we stand with a lot of the atheists. And that's when we stand with a lot of Christians like yourself, Richard, or like even like Messenger. Because I do know my boss is a Christian. She's she's pro-life. She's praised and Christian and Jesus and all that. However, half of her staff is LGBT. Our assistant manager is a lesbian. Our groomer is gay. The person who handles the big dogs that play in
Stockbridge?
In McDonough.
Oh, okay.
The person who handles
That's still surprising.
Yeah, the person who handles the big dog daycare where the big dogs go and play is transitioning from female to male. We just hired another lesbian, and I'm bisexual. So half of our staff is LGBT, and she's a Christian, like a hardcore Christian. So there are Christians that are behind us, which is where my interpretation question comes in. I'm like, well, how are you getting this?
I'd love to answer that.
You gotta go for it, because I've never really.
Okay, so it's the same way we know anything's true: applicability, falsifiability, predictive power. That's how we know. So what I can say is that in all three of those qualifiers, everything that I understand all of the ancient texts to be are valid. Now I can show that. That's a 30-hour talk, but I can show that. Okay.
What are valid?
Yeah, I missed that too.
That my view of the text applies to every ancient spirituality. That's the first thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. That it is applicable. It's not some super special case or something. Okay.
So you're saying that, like, say the Eddas and the Bible agree, is what you're saying?
I'm saying everything that's ancient agrees.
All right. So I think that
I might hold a similar position to that, but I think it results in polytheism, not monotheism.
I believe polytheism is true Christianity.
Okay.
Yeah.
We might. Yeah. You know what? Richard and I might be on like extremely similar ground.
Yeah. I forgot about that little aspect too. I've had like 4 conversations with Richard, and like every time is an explosion of knowledge about this man. it's hard to keep it all lined up.
Well, like for instance, in 2013, I started looking for something because of the Christian text specifically. I started looking for something that was going to block out the appearance, that is our perception of, 3 certain stars. Those are the hands and head of Dagon, as recalled in the story, I think, Jericho, where the Philistines have the Ark of the Covenant, is actually talking about astronomy. So for 5 years, I looked for something that could block out our view of that stars, and those 3 stars, I couldn't find it. And then NASA found it in 2017.
Sorry, Richard. Messenger reveals, whatever's going on in the chat, email me and we'll set it up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Scout just fucking came in, and I talked to Scout for a minute and real quick, I know to not to change the topic, but he was just in Drag's channel earlier, and I asked him where he was last night, and he said, "Oh, I told Knock that my girlfriend was over." I'm like, why were you doing in chat? You were in the chat for a minute, and then he didn't answer me.
Yeah, he was in and out of the chat.
He knew I was busy disingenuous tonight. Strike you.
Yeah, he knew I was busy tonight, so that's his thing. I don't know, I might give him a chance to explain himself. I hope he changes course. Scout, you're never gonna get to where you want to go doing what you're doing. But And stop being a homophobe racist.
Yeah,
That would be
we
helpful.
That would be
I
nice.
guess, wouldn't it?
need to finish that
Yeah.
conversation, Sky, but we'll do that another day.
None of us are perfect. All of us have problems, and we should be loving and supporting of each other at all times.
Yeah, and that's what
Yeah,
I
I
kind of want to get
behind
into.
that message.
Yeah, that's what I kind of want to mold into as we kind of get toward the end here. Is this thing that you've been talking about, Ocean? And it's kind of, I don't want to talk about what's going on. I think you know what I'm talking about. I saw that you try to interject and kind of make a rational plea to kind of like maybe calm things down, and it just got rejected. And this concept of frith that you were talking about, I'd like to hear you speak a little more about that, and maybe tell my audience. I find this concept really good, and I think that everybody needs this right now. Yeah.
I deal with the concept of frith in 2 of the videos on my channel. Like and subscribe. That
I'm surprised.
great.
one is called Frith and Family, and the other one is A Polytheist Goes the Faithless Forum. And in both of them, I use a definition of frith that has been put forward by a few other friends of mine that are starting have been building a heathen community online, and that is that. So, frith is a concept that's mentioned in a lot of ancient texts, and there's been various definitions of it as far as what it means. There's an archaeological, historical understanding of what it means, that it's essentially like, you don't kill me, I won't kill you. And that it possibly in that period of time also extended into like a mutual respect and understanding for each other. And like like frith, building a frith bond with somebody would be equivalent to building a close friendship with somebody. So I think that the frith and friend, the concepts are probably closely related. There's another concept which is called grith that I go into in the Polytheist Goes to Faithless Forum video, that is basically an establishment of frith in a temporarily in time or place. And these are 2 concepts that I've been using as far as different ways, and he's leaving. He left. He's gone.
Not really. Just keep talking.
He's gone. Okay. Anyway, these 2 concepts are things that I'm using in order to try and establish some more cordial relations between the atheist community and the pagan community, because there's a lot of things that we agree on, and there's a lot of ways that if we just like if we put aside the God debate for a second and focus on a lot of the things that we agree on, there's so much that we agree on. Because I think that the God debate it's meaningful. It's a tough conversation. It's worth having. But honestly, when it comes to affecting each other's lives, there's environmentalism and LGBTQ issues and just general elements of freedom in our society, as far as like freedom to practice as we want to, worship on our own, like freedom of religion, things that Christians push back on a little too much, that affects atheists and affects pagans.
Are you saying that Christians can't be prejudiced? I mean, of course they're pushing back.
What do you mean?
Most of the Christians I've met aside from you, a handful of these for.
Well, I think what it means is just trying to find common ground and becoming.
And honestly,
like
there are
Ocean
some
and
Christians. There's some Christians that could engage with this concept. I think Episcopalians are a great example of Christians that can engage easily with this. I think Richard is one of them as well.
Yeah, Richard.
And that, when you have an overarching religion that's the evangelical Christianity in a lot of states in America that is trying to dominate the social conversation, make discrimination legal, or hamper people's rights, or destroy the environment and not do anything about destruction of the environment, that we're all aligned on saying, wait, we should stop that. And there's atheists that hold to a position of, well, we can't work with any people that believe in God because they're automatically irrational if they believe in God, which I don't think is the case, obviously.
You can't make a blanket statement about any group on the planet.
Oh yeah, well, and you see it just in the way atheists attack Callan, for instance. I see it on Twitter all the damn time, and it's like,
being an atheist.
Why?
Being an atheist does not make you any better. It does not make you rational. Being religious does not make you a better person. It also doesn't make you rational. Right. And it doesn't make you irrational either. Just like being an atheist doesn't make you irrational either. So I think that there's tough conversations to be had as far as philosophy is concerned. But when it comes down to just like general function of life, there's things that we can definitely agree on. And if we can work together in ways that do not undermine each other, that's going to be a positive.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I totally agree with that. Like, I really think that when you can find common grounds, and I think it's clearly, you know, easier for, say, the atheist and pagan community than your conventional Christian community. I do think that there are Christians out there. Like the guy I started YouTube with, we got into a rift, but he's a genuine guy. I think he genuinely just wants the world to be better and wants his church to be better. You can find common ground and friendship with people like that. It's just, it's hard when you stand in blatant opposition or when you have a powerful segment. Because let's be honest, here in this country, at least, Christians have the power, kind of holding back the weaker segments of society, like atheists or pagans, vast minorities that don't have no influence. Atheism is growing. I suspect paganism is growing as well because more and more people are actually leaving the Christian church. So yeah, it's this whole concept of Frith. Since you started talking about it, Ocean, it's just kind of like turned on that light bulb in my head, and like this is that conversation I've been trying to have of coexistence. I've been trying to have it with Christians and just anybody that I can talk about coexistence and finding humanism, talking about how my anti-theism had become poisonous, and I really had to look at myself and, hey, these are my faults. This is what I'm doing wrong, and I can change that. I can make those changes. You know, we all need to be more like that.
Well, Knock, I'm not a homosexual, but you are a beautiful man.
I got to fix my teeth. Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
No, I completely agree with what you just said, Rich. And I do want more of that because, like, you know, we have differences of opinion like crazy, and yet we're able to have a fucking good friendship, right?
Oh yeah,
like,
you're an awesome dude, man.
Yeah, and you as well, man. Like I think I'm in your trailer talking about how genuine I think you are.
I had to include that part.
Yeah. So, like, I think that those areas of agreement are huge, and we should be working together more on those things. And I've been in talks with other atheist channels and stuff about how, like, that can be a thing. And it's, you know, I've been getting positive feedback from it, which I think is
I think great. There's a definite element. At least some atheists that I see, you know, people like Shannon Q and Mr. Atheist and, you know, Holy Kool-Aid, just really honest people, good people that's willing to be open. And I think that's going to go a long way when people do that, you know, like I got nowhere when I was being the raging atheist, just hating on everybody. Once I opened myself up to different kinds of people, you're going to get a lot farther. And there's so much ground to be had. We really need to realize that. I hate seeing people gang up on Callan on Twitter, you know, and I'm always too busy to really get involved. You know, it drives me crazy. Like, she's an ally. Why are you fucking with her? You know,
she's been, not only that, but she's been like really helpful in a lot of these like dramas that have been going on in the atheist community. That she's been providing people with research. She's been trying to reach out to people and get people to stop fighting each other. And like,
Christians don't have that problem at all. They all agree.
Oh yeah, no, Christians never have any disagreements whatsoever. I call there's this. It's funny that like you mentioned that because there's it's what I call throwing a cat in the room. That if you have, and I got this from being in a vegan hangout where they were all going after me for eating meat, and I was just like, hold on, guys, just out of curiosity, I want to know. There's like 20 vegans in here. What do you guys think about having a cat as a pet and feeding it meat because it's an obligate carnivore? Suddenly, the room got split into 3 factions.
That's a great question.
If I fucking catch anybody feeding their cat vegan, we're gonna have problems.
Oh yeah,
Cats don't fucking eat vegan.
So the room split into 3 factions. One was yes, you feed the cat a vegan diet. There's vegan diets that exist for cats that are perfectly fine. Another one was yes. You should have a cat. Don't feed them a fucking vegan diet though. They're obligate carnivores. You feed them meat. All right. And then the question is, well, how do you deal with that in the factory farming industry? It's like, well, you know, you can figure out workarounds, but they're cats. The cat has to eat. Mm-hmm. The other one was because of that, it's immoral to own a cat.
Holy shit.
So they call that throwing a cat in the room. If you have Christians, like if you have like 30 Christians in the room, they're all coming after you about something. You can ask them something about like whether or not revelation has already happened, or when, or the divinity of Christ, or interpretations of the Trinity. There's all kinds of things you can throw into the room that are the proverbial vegan cat.
That's awesome. Every time I talk to you, I learn something.
Each other. What I also think what needs to happen is the Christians that aren't the extremists that call for the execution of gays or witches or whoever, they need to stand with like us, meaning, they need to come out against the Matt Powells and the Matt Slicks and the Ken Hovens.
Yeah, I've been trying to make a little bit of ground in that, Marty, and just reaching out to people that I consider to be rational. And I'm getting a little bit of resistance, like that Christian vlogger agreed to come on. He was so gung-ho for it, and then all of a sudden it didn't happen.
He probably got shit from his church.
Maybe.
That'll do it. Well,
maybe, and I don't want to say nothing bad, but I thought he was a guy that could really come out, and he's got a huge platform, like you could really come out and start talking about these issues a little bit more, and maybe be in solidarity with our communities, and show that we don't have to be at each other's throats. And I can understand the hesitation. He hasn't told me he's not going to do it yet, so I'm not speaking, but I've noticed that, like with Savannah Louie, like there's a good chance there, like there are good Christians out there, but they're so afraid to stand in opposition to those louder voices like Paul and Morgan and the Matt Powells and Stephen Andersons. And
yeah,
I had that conversation, and I feel fine talking about this, but I had this conversation with Mike Winger a while ago. It's like we had our debate with me, him, and Suris.
That was great.
Yeah, I watched that one.
It's a good debate. After it closed, though, we were talking about how it's like, yeah, we enjoy having this conversation with you, Mike. You're mature about it. You handle the pressure well and all that stuff. You got in the hot seat with me and Suris. That's cool. And but what we want is more Christians that I know Mike disagrees with Stephen Anderson.
Yeah.
I also know that for some reason Mike won't call out Stephen Anderson.
Yeah, they won't do it.
I don't know why. I don't get it, because he's that. I think that what was Mike's reason for it, I forget. I don't quote me necessarily, because but I think that his reason for it was something along the lines of that his time was better devoted in other places or something like that.
He disagrees with Stephen Anderson? Okay.
He does, obviously.
He really does not like LGBT people at all.
Oh, yeah, but he doesn't want executions.
Yeah. That's the difference.
So if you have...
Then he doesn't disagree with Stephen Anderson. He might be a little like...
in policy application.
Because he doesn't. Thinks we're all not reprobates. He thinks we're all pedophiles and we're all beasts and we're all going to hell, and we all
hold the phone though. There is a strong difference between I'm a Christian and you're saying like, hey, I think that your lifestyle is a sin or whatever, but we have a live and let live attitude about it, versus executions.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
Mike
Winger doesn't exactly have a live and let live.
No. I understand that Mike Winger's more extreme than maybe we would like for him to be.
He's
However,
listening
I do think that if him and Stephen Anderson were in a conversation with each other and this came up, Mike would disagree strongly with Stephen Anderson's approach.
Right. So,
and I want more of that conversation between Christians, because it would discredit Stephen Anderson.
Well, and
set it up, and I'm there.
I don't know much about Mike Winger. I've seen a couple of his debates. One of them was yours and Suris's, and then I've seen it. I was planning on doing a video on him, so I do know his stance on it. The thing that I get with him is I think he's intelligent, and I think that he's smart enough that the more he's going to have these conversations and maybe actually interact more with the LGBTQ community, hopefully he will. As he debates more with people, hopefully he'll interact more. I think I can definitely see him coming to more of a moderated ground than where he's even at now compared to most Christians, to where you're not going to see that from Stephen Anderson. And I do agree, Ocean, like that's exactly what I'm saying is, I also think that some of the harder stances he takes, he does it because he feels like he has to. I don't think that, and I don't know the guy, but I don't think that he really cares. I think he is more of a live and let live, but he has to have a doctrine.
He's
And-
not.
and
He-
I
he-
don't know.
he's
No,
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Mike Winger is not a live and let live.
He's not. He
Not-
tried to
I don't know him all that much, but I don't know. Like he seems like a decent dude. Like maybe he could change. You know, like
All right, put it this way. I think my definition of live and let live is supporting gay marriage.
yeah.
yeah, me
Mike Winger
too.
does not.
definitely.
He does
Yeah.
not support gay marriage.
I'm definitely in opposition to people that don't support equal rights for everybody.
Right.
So don't get me twisted. I just don't know the guy that much, but
Like he doesn't want to kill anybody,
yeah.
but he doesn't think that rights should be recognized.
Okay,
in a
you
way that I think
dominant
is
males,
a
let
little-
Marty finish a sentence.
Yeah,
I love
it's
you, Marty.
It's such a touchy subject that you got to.
Thanks, Richard. I'm going to shut the fuck up for a second.
Thank you.
He is less extreme than Steven Anderson, but he's still extreme, and he tries to make his secular case against homosexuality. He's not somebody that I think.
Oh yeah, I do remember that video now. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
Cyrus, I think was it Cyrus who fucking deconstructed that? Cyrus.
Yeah.
Sir, in the debate that I'm referencing, which is on my channel, like and subscribe.
I
Uh,
always did with the shameless plugs.
I'm gonna put that in the description now that you're here.
yeah, if that debate, Cyrus cooks him on a grill
Yes, he fucking.
Yeah, he
oh
did.
my god!
on that
I
issue.
Cyrus about that. It's a good fucking job. I commented on Mike Winger's bullshit secular case for against homosexuality, and Skylar Fiction deconstructed it too. So I wouldn't really see him as somebody who should be on like the team of like us.
Yeah, maybe bad example, but
he's pretty extreme. He's not as extreme
Yeah,
as
bad example.
but he's
No,
pretty
I think that Mike Winger calling out Steven Anderson on the execution issue would be helpful. I'm still wouldn't be considering myself a Mike Winger ally.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah, and that's the thing.
or
that's the
yeah,
thing.
I might cheer him on, but I'm not gonna be on his side at the end of the day. But I do if more of that kind of conversation between Christians, I think is good. Like Christians should be calling out the more extreme
Yes.
versions of their own, and because I think that you can be a Mike Winger. While I think it has issues, is nowhere near as harmful as a Steven Anderson.
right. He's not
Yeah.
as he's not,
Well,
he's
and
not
not
as
just. Oh, sorry, Marty. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. And because when I post stuff about like, like memes that have that say something whatever that Christians might take personally, I have my Christian friends coming out of the fucking woodwork that are like, not all Christians think that way, and I say, then you know what, you guys need to side with like those of us who see this and speak out against these fucking lunatics. Why are you not? Why do you? Are you eating Haagen-Dazs, Richard? I'm so jealous because I could
Oh, I live in the bottom of a Haagen-Dazs, yeah.
kill some Haagen-Dazs.
That's fucking great.
Here,
I
open
know, right?
it.
But I mean, I think and for some reason I don't know why. Maybe they get back. Maybe there is a little bit of that in their church or in their community, and they're afraid to come out against it. And that's how I don't understand why. So when I see Christians like Richard or like the Messenger Reveals who don't have those crazy extreme views against us, I mean,
And don't get me wrong, I'll still go after those guys, but they are better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I get like it makes me wonder like, well, where do you're reading from the same book and you believe in
Not
the same
really.
book. Is it not though?
It's not.
Well, okay, you guys have the same copy of the Bible, but
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
it's-
Like it's the same.
Same copy, different stories.
yeah, I kind of agree with what Rage is saying there. That there's different stories, and that there's a completely different understanding that comes out of them when they read them. I think that like Steven Anderson and types bring hate to their to the text when they read it. The problem is that the text is structured in such a way that it's easily supporting that hate.
Mm-hmm.
So
and if you notice their doctrine,
Richard, when you read the Bible, you don't get
well,
that hate message.
Oh, I can see how they read it that way.
well,
Yeah.
So then why don't
well,
you get? Why don't you
it's the
interpret it
hatred in themselves. Like
right,
you can-
Richard, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I agree
you can
with you there,
easily see
yeah.
that it's not just against LGBTQ because it spills out to pretty much everybody that's not.
But
there.
everybody,
You know, I mean,
not Christian.
this whole reprobate mentality is pretty much, all right, you're not Baptist, so you're a reprobate now. You know, they do more fighting amongst the different denominations. Like, atheists and pagans, yeah, we're easy targets. We're on the outside, but they're really busy fighting amongst themselves. You know, like,
Well, they want a target-rich environment, so there you go.
yeah, Matt Powell hates every other denomination besides Baptist. Hates them. I've had that conversation with them. They're not real Christians.
To kidnap the conversation back into Frith, though, as far as atheists and pagans and Christians working together, rather than inspiring infighting among Christians.
Yeah.
I guess, like, well, I think that we should inspire infighting among Christians. The
Frith conversation is what I really want.
Yeah, the Frith conversation is better. Because so what, like, to describe Frith a little bit, so that if you have a household, right, and you have a household that has like your whatever structure that it has as far as people living in there. For me, it's a roommate, his girlfriend, and a cat. All right, so you want to maintain Frith in the household. You don't do shit like steal your roommate's food, right? Mm-hmm. You share the responsibilities of feeding the cat. You take and all that jazz, right? And like as long as those responsibilities are upheld and everybody is upkeeping and not, you're not making the place a fucking mess, you're not doing and all that kind of crap, Frith becomes maintained in the house. Frith breaking is going to happen if that thing is violated, and there's like, you're disrupting the Frith maybe, but not breaking it if you're not doing the dishes on the right day or something like that. But if you're breaking Frith when it's like you make a clear agreement and you falter on that agreement.
Like if you eat the cat.
Right. Somebody eats the cat, that would be clear Frith breaking.
So it's basically,
it's
basically just don't be an asshole. It's
essentially it is the heathen version of the golden rule, but it's a lot more, it's got a much more complicated nuanced. It's much more nuanced to it. Because the golden rule is like a very specific love your neighbor as yourself. It's like, it's one relationship, one set of standard about how that should go. Frith is about mutuality, reciprocity, and respect in that relationship between each other. So there's a lot more nuances to how it goes.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. You can develop Frith with an enemy, right?
You no. So no, right. If you are if there's somebody that's like a clear enemy of yours, you can say, we have Grith in this certain area, like and to take it back to the historical setting, right? Let's say that I am of one tribe, and there's a warring tribe that's next door to me, and we want to. We've been fighting for so long, everybody's getting tired of it. It's become a fucking war of attrition at this point. We can say, hey, let's establish Grith on this day and this time and this place. All right, and everybody's like, our peoples are going to go to this place, meet, trade, drink together, have a good time, and nobody is going to break that energy of Grith that's been put there. If somebody draws a sword and kills somebody in that time and space, then they've broken that agreement, and we're right back at square one. But setting up an area of Grith is a place in order to say, hey, let's start getting along. Let's see if we can do it. Right. So everybody gets together. They have themselves a little party. They trade, and all of that jazz, and then everybody goes back fucking home. And maybe they're back at war again right afterwards. But it is a step toward healing each other. And maybe after that engagement, everybody still fucking hates each other. Or maybe after that engagement, people are starting to have second thoughts. Like, maybe these guys aren't so bad. Maybe we can figure out some kind of way to solve this issue and actually build a Frith relationship between each other. Because once that Frith bond exists, it's not an enemy anymore.
All right. So yeah, I think I understand you. So it's like Matt Powell started trolling me, and I started trolling him back, and I called him out, and we were war of words. And so in that first interaction, we established Grith.
It's war of words is not. That's not Grith.
Well, no, but so, like we established, like, we were going to try to come together and
yeah. There's starting out the impression of a Grith establishment when he said, "Hey, let's have a conversation," right? Yeah. Okay.
So, and then when he didn't give me the footage that was, the agreed.
When he broke the agreement, that was a breaking of Grith.
Agreed. So he broke the Grith at that moment, and
So game on.
It's been war ever since. So yeah, I think I understand that concept, and I
Yeah.
think that was the concept I was thinking of when I said you can make an enemy. You can have Frith with an enemy. I was thinking of because you spoke of both in your video, and I was thinking of Grith.
From the perspective of the faith, it's like as a heathen, when someone breaks Grith, that is a huge problem.
Mm. Oh yeah,
Because
and I've
now-
had a huge problem with him ever since. Like I've
Right.
not been able to trust him. You know,
What's a
And
huge
if-
problem
and-
in real life?
Mhm.
Right. It's just the structure and application to it legitimizes the understanding. You start to understand why it's a huge problem, because there was an agreement that was made on the basis of trust, and then that trust was violated, or in this case, like the trust would be flipped out for Grith, which is a slightly different concept. There's an agreement that we can get along at this time and this place and have some understanding and start trying to find some common ground so that we can work on something. But then those agreements get broken, and it's like, oh, so that whole process was in bad faith in the first place.
yeah.
Well,
See,
fuck you then, you know.
this is exactly what you're speaking of in your video. Like our communities can learn from each other. These are concepts that we could utilize and learn from each other. Like, dude, every single time I've ever spoken with Ocean, I have learned something. Every time I've spoken with Richard, I have learned something. Like when you have these genuine, and that's why I try not to leave Christians out of it too. Although it seems like they're harder to find, but there is hope for all of us, really. I mean, because we can have these concepts. We can learn from each other. We can be friends with each other. You know, we don't have to be at each other's throats all the time. And Twitter, especially right now, really.
Yeah, no, I get you.
People really need to learn that right fucking now.
Yeah. So, and without getting into that, what I might say is that, like, from the perspective of like a Grith and Frith sort of perspective, there's in the Havamal, which is the words of Odin, there's a passage, it's verse 127 in there, which is that if you see evil, call it out and let your enemy know no Frith. In the case of Matt Powell, you shouldn't be letting him know any Frith.
Yeah.
He is of a position in which gay people should be executed. There's no Frith with somebody like that.
Wait, let me ask you, Odin, is that a positive statement there?
What do you mean? Positive statement.
No Frith.
To let your enemy know no Frith.
Yes.
And it's to no, it's not that's no Frith is not a word necessarily. It's just two words of saying you deny Frith in this instance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and with people
later.
like Matt Powell, and that is all right. So that is, I think, the major.
I would need to know what you mean by positive statement, Richard.
Yeah, I don't quite understand. Like, I
not
think
allow Frith.
I understand what Ocean is saying. With the person that is going to have
there is no peace with people that are evil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's positive.
We have the same. Yeah, we have the same thing too. Don't allow the.
Maybe one day Matt Powell won't hold those stances anymore, and then maybe something could be built. But yeah, as long as he holds those stances, as long as Steven Anderson holds those stances, anybody that would hold it, Westboro Baptist Church, they are our enemy, and you got to treat them as such. You know, I tried with Matt Powell. Like, I didn't know much about him, you know, when I went to that first one, but he did. Like, we went in and he broke his word. He didn't give me the footage, and he was very dishonest. And I learned, and then I learned more about him. And there's really no peace. You make peace with the Richards of the world, with you know, the genuine people that's actually willing to do it and not manipulate it. You know, because Matt Powell's going to manipulate it every single time. So is Steven Anderson and Jimenez and all of them IFB fuckers. But most Baptists, I mean, I tend to see like the Baptist religion, I think, is the worst denomination for me. I just don't. Maybe it's because I grew up Baptist and I dealt with them.
Have them fucking.
I think it's like that for all of us, though, right? Like Telltale deals with Jehovah's Witnesses, and Mr. Atheist deals with Mormons. I think we tend to kind of focus on maybe what we broke away from, you know, as atheists. Maybe, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
You can't throw a rock down here without hitting a fucking Baptist, right, Ocean?
Yeah, well, yeah, and Georgia's not too far from North Carolina, so y'all kind of understand what I'm talking about. Like, there's nothing but Baptists down there, you know?
The problem is, I mean, I go on Nephilim Free's channel. I start making logical points. He just starts getting argumentative. He won't hear the points. I mean, I could correct that man all day long. It wouldn't matter.
Dr. Josh said that you crushed Nephilim Free, and Nephilim Free reached out to me on Twitter today. He wants to have a conversation. I'm like, I'm busy tonight, dude. So we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, he won't let me back on his channel.
Yeah, Dr. Josh said it was like one of the most beautiful things he ever saw.
Well, I just made the man disprove himself. That's all I did.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous with the Nephilim Free thing. I don't know too much about him. I'm going to have to watch a bunch of his old videos.
You're not missing much.
About a teaspoon deep.
Yeah,
I'll talk to anybody. If somebody wants to talk to me, I'll talk to them. I'll walk into that trap. Yeah.
You're not missing much.
No,
I'll tell you what, I wasn't expecting. That man got nasty, and I mean just downright grotesque.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he sounds like an ancient dude. Callan, I'm not in North Carolina anymore. I was raised there. I thankfully got far away. I'd probably be burned by now. Not really, but I definitely would not have very many friends down there anymore. I live in Michigan now. That's how I did my face-to-face with Matt Powell. And yeah, so I got 9 minutes and I got to do my daughter's shot. I've learned a lot. Like, Ocean, I'm really glad you came on and explained that. I'm glad that that you made that video. I think it was the right time for that video, and I just wish that more people would watch it and more people would accept the hands that are being offered, because it's like I just got like, you know, I'm just little old me, but I don't know, like I really felt like he could have been reached. I don't want to get into it, but I don't know.
No, I think that I was speaking to more than just what I was saying.
Yeah,
but I made that video.
I thought you handled it really well. I thought you did. I thought you. And for me, when you're getting involved, I don't know. I wish that they would have just listened. I don't know.
And
I want everybody to be at peace, man.
They didn't, and that's fine. Like I think that, yeah, and I know what you're referencing, and it didn't work, and that's okay. We're moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, we try, and that's what I'm saying. Like, let's go with the positivity. Let's find this Frith with the people that we can. I think your video is excellent, man. I really do.
Yeah, and I think that with more atheists using the term, I think that that's because it's not like a religiously charged word.
Mm-hmm.
It's a word that is it's a social concept from the Old Norse. And
I like it.
It doesn't mean that you have to believe in Thor in order to have it. It's like you can have an atheist household and still have a discussion on the basis of Frith and understanding and be like, cool. It's the only part of it that might be religiously charged in the definition that I provide is the element of luck, which has like a very specific Norse understanding of the term. But it's essentially harming someone's luck would be, in the Norse understanding of it, would be essentially doing something that harms someone's ability to achieve one of their goals. So say,
you stole a tool out of their bag.
Yeah. So something like that. Like if you borrowed a tool without asking them and they're going to work that day on a job that really depends on that tool and now they look like an idiot because they didn't have the tool, you've harmed that person's luck and it had an effect.
Yeah. I really like this concept, man. I agree. I think more atheists, hell, more Christians could apply this to themselves. Expand your golden rule. Look at yourselves and be better people. Like, why can't we just be better people, man? I did it. I used to hate everybody, and now I'm trying not to.
The biblical term for that would be curse. You curse each other. You curse each other.
Yeah.
In agreement.
I think that. There's some atheists that I've been engaging with on the term Frith, and I think that, like, Rage, I can consider you among them, that once, like, there's an understanding of what the term is and they're like, all right, so we're going to be engaging together on the basis of this understanding, it improves the relationship between people immensely, especially when it's stated that it's like, hey, we have a Frith bond.
Yeah. And
if there's if there's an issue that pops up between people, you can say, like, hey, here's where I think Frith was broken.
Yeah. Yeah. There's terms, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have this respect for each other, and let's not cross those boundaries. That's why, I wanted to clarify my statements from yesterday, because I want to be conscious of the fact, not just with with pagans or Muslims I want to be conscious of people's feelings and overstepping the bounds and having that mutual respect. Because I think if you have that, then people are going to listen to you a lot more than if they have no respect for you. So. And I think it's a lot easier that I've gotten to know you, Ocean, and I've gotten to know Marty, and Callan's been really cool to me and accepting. Like when you have that, it's a lot easier to come into it open. So I'd say just keep being yourself. I think you're going to pull a lot of people to this message because you're such a genuine guy. It's very easy to like you. It was for me. It was for me. I know Rachel Oates thinks that you're kind of evil, but
yeah, no, she thinks I'm terrible.
She told us to tell you suck.
Hey, did anyone else's brain do the Frith, frothy, fluffy, nice, and then grith, gritty, not so nice? Did anyone else's? No,
that's not what the interpretation should be.
I know,
grith,
but it's really easy to remember that way.
Yeah, you might be able to do that, but grith would be is the same thing as frith, except it's in a temporary setting.
Yeah,
it's a diplomatic version of it. Yeah, and I think that once the first stage of doing, especially if it's somebody that you've had contentious engagements with, you can say, "Hey, let's try and establish grith with each other," where it's like for a period of time. In all instances, or like to say when we're in this particular room, like when you say when we're in this channel's hangouts, let's establish grith.
Yeah,
great.
Like that.
Now, how do I know that's not all you're doing?
Say what?
How do I know that's not all you're doing now?
Well, if it's grith on the basis of a specific room, then yeah, once we're out of this room, we're back at war, right?
Right.
But but for the time being of us sitting in this room, let's be fucking chill.
Yeah. It's easy with Richard, not so easy with fuckers like Sky.
Yes, fuck Sky.
But I think Sky, this could apply. So maybe I should think about it, Sky.
He will not.
Maybe we'll find grit.
I say be careful engaging in this concept with people that are dishonest, because essentially once you establish frith with somebody, you're held to that standard until they break it.
It definitely wouldn't be frith. Maybe
like it's an honor system, and that's one of the things that, as far as like the religious power of it, as far as Norse are concerned, it's something that's like, all right, if your goal is to be an honorable human, and breaking a frith is not going to be honorable. So if you're going to say I established frith bond with somebody, and then you see them trying to fuck up something else, and you're not on their side, you would need to break that bond in order to actually go after them on it. Mm-hmm. So be careful who you kind of like choose. Yeah.
Well, and
your bonds with.
Yeah, before I really start using the terminology and applying the terminology, I would definitely want to learn more. But I think I've learned a lot. Like, I definitely understand it a little bit more, and I definitely recommend everybody in the chat to go check out Ocean's video on it, because excellent video.
I'd say that somebody that you have a frith bond with that is attacking a friend of yours in some way, you would be able to then establish a conversation with them, and it's like, hey, our frith bond has been seriously affected by this. It's not in place anymore. Something like that kind of conversation. Because it's once you have that information of frith bond, if you're going to break it, you need to have like an honest conversation with them and say like, hey, this is not a connection that we have anymore. And it's same thing with grith, that if it's like, you know what, the way that we're handling this place, this room, is I'm not going to be like holding the grith shield for you here. It's not there anymore. That's just requires an upfront, honest conversation, and then you can go forward with canceling that out of honesty. But you need to just be like honest and informative about it if you're going to remove it. So,
well, and like you said though, that's just a good way to really go about things, because honestly, like if you're going to be, even if you don't have those concepts and you're just a friend and you're going into a room, if you're not honest with your friend and you don't have their back, they could take offense to that. Like, be honest. Say, hey, no, I'm not on your side in this argument. I'm going to argue against you. Be aware of that. And then there's no hard feelings, Yeah.
And having grith doesn't mean don't have any disagreements. Mm-hmm. It just means that if you're going to be engaging in disagreements, do so respectfully.
Yeah, it's a good concept, dude. I'm just fascinated by man, I always say that I'm a history guy, so I really like history, but just, I don't know, it seems like it's what we need right now. It seems like it's the message that we need right now for what's going on, and it's so big and it's so out of control. Like we need this little message that, hey, let's work together. Let's not we're especially like we're allies, so it's not like we're very different people. We have a lot of similarities. Let's find those similarities, you know.
I would love for there to be an atheist channel that's starting to talk a little bit about this as well, and like start engaging with it. And if you want to be, if you want to be talking more about it, I'm happy to provide you with resources. And,
definitely
and stuff like that. There's links in the bottom.
More about this, Ocean, because I would like to continue this concept into my life and my channel. I think that it's a brilliant concept. I love it. I'm just going to say that.
And on the videos that I mentioned, Polytheist Goes to Faithless Forum and Frith and Family, there are links in the bottom of the descriptions of those videos to get you to talk a little bit about Frith. And at the bottom of the Faithless Forum one, there is a link that's to a friend of mine's blog where he goes into what the differences are between Frith and Grith. They're really short articles. They're to the point as far as just like defining how they were thought of. And you take that application and put it into your life, or however you want to use it. But it's just the concepts are there, and I think that they're useful, especially in the environment that we're in now.
Yeah, I'll definitely read them, and audience, you should too. But and after I read them, though, Ocean, I'll probably send you some questions.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Hey, Marty, I wanted to say thank you so much for starting this, and Knock and Ocean, thank you so much. I'm going to drop out. I wish you all peace. And have a great night. I had a great time.
Thank you, Richard. As always, man, you're a great dude.
You guys have peace.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
And I do need to end this, so real quick, the Great Debate Community, 10 o'clock, I'll be over there. A bunch of us will be, so check that out. And I'm going to put the Ocean's channel in the description, so go sub to Ocean. If I didn't really pay attention to chat like I've been trying to do, so if I missed anything, I'm sorry, chat. It's just such an interesting conversation. I got completely sucked into. Yeah, man, I really appreciate
good conversation, man. So
I'm definitely going to be looking at these concepts more and just being more open to which I've been really trying to work on that, just being not so much just shut off in the raging atheist and really more open to what other people are saying. So I think a lot of people could learn from that right now. So yeah, thanks a lot, y'all. Thanks for coming on, and man, a good conversation.
Thanks, Ocean. Hey, Ocean, did you pre-reg for con yet?
For what?
Dragon Con?
Oh, I don't know if I'll be here. We'll see. But you and I should hang out. We know each other's on the Facebooks, right?
Yeah. I was actually going to message you after this.
Yeah, let's do coffee or something. That'd be cool.
Totally. Yeah. We'll set something up.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Ocean. Thanks, Marty. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, everybody in the chat. I'll see you guys soon.
All right. Later.